A little girl was selling her toys on a Los Angeles sidewalk. Passers-by didn't pay her any attention until Keanu Reeves appeared on the sidewalk. He went to the makeshift store and decided to find out why the child was selling her favorite things. The true reason for the sale will not leave you indifferent, and will also leave an important mark on the actor's life. Friends, let us know in the comments under what conditions you watch this video. In the background, while working, or during lunch. Also, don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow another emotional story will be waiting for you. Los Angeles. The evening city sparkled with bright storefront lights, luring in shoppers. Street musicians played on every corner, while the aroma of fresh pastries and coffee filled the air from nearby cafes. The flow of people moved like a river. Some hurried with shopping bags in hand, while others strolled leisurely, enjoying the warm weather. Amidst this hustle and bustle, between luxury stores and expensive restaurants, stood a completely unremarkable little table. It was old, slightly wobbly, but neatly covered with a white napkin. On it sat children's toys, a plush teddy bear with a slightly worn-out ear, carefully arranged dolls, a few toy cars, and a small pink tea set. Everything looked tidy, yet carried a faint trace of time. Above the table, taped to a box, hung a simple cardboard sign. Selling toys. The letters were drawn by a child's hand, carefully but slightly uneven. Behind the table stood an 8-year-old girl. Her dark hair was braided into 2 pigtails, and her brown eyes attentively scanned the passers-by. She didn't appear sad or lost, rather focused. Her small fingers would occasionally adjust the teddy bear or gently move a doll closer to the table's edge to make it more visible. Every now and then, she would blow away imaginary dust from the toys, as if afraid they might lose their charm. Passers-by cast quick glances at her. Some smiled, but most walked past without stopping. In a metropolis, people were used to seeing vendors on the streets, but few, if any, could have guessed why this child stood there alone, running her own little makeshift shop. Strolling along the sidewalk, leisurely enjoying his evening walk, was Keanu Reeves. In his hands, he held a paper cup of coffee, taking small sips from time to time. He loved moments like these, when he could blend into the city, when no one shouted his name or asked for an autograph. Tonight was one of those nights when he simply observed life. But this time, something made him stop. His gaze landed on the small figure behind the table, a child, alone. Selling her toys? This sight stood out against the rhythm of the city. In a vast world where everyone rushed and focused on their own concerns, she stood there, small, yet confident. Keanu narrowed his eyes and took a closer look at her. Something about her demeanor seemed unusual. Why was she here? Where were her parents? Why was she selling her toys? Questions swirled in his mind, slowing his steps. He couldn't just walk past. Keanu stopped by the table and gently leaned toward the little girl. She wasn't frightened, but looked at him with slight caution. It was clear that she recognized him, yet she didn't react the way most people did upon seeing him for the first time. "What are you doing here, little one?" Keanu asked softly, careful not to startle her. The girl didn't answer right away. She studied him carefully, as if assessing whether he could be trusted. Her gaze lingered on his kind expression for a moment, before she finally replied, "I'm selling my toys." Her voice was calm, yet far too serious for a child. She didn't fidget, didn't try to push her items on potential buyers, nor did she seek attention. She simply stood there, waiting, exuding quiet confidence. This maturity intrigued Keanu. "And why is that?" he asked gently. The girl thought for a moment. It was evident that she was considering her response. Finally, a slight smile touched her lips, as if she wanted to make her reasoning more convincing. "I want to buy my mom a birthday present." Keanu raised his eyebrows. charmed by her answer. It was truly touching. A child selling her own toys for her mother. His gaze shifted to the table. There were various items, old but well kept. Clearly, they meant something to her. He picked up a plush teddy bear. One of its ears was slightly worn, but it still looked soft and endearing. He wondered how easy it was for her to part with it. "How much for this one?" he asked, gently squeezing the stuffed animal in his hands. $1, she answered without hesitation. Keanu couldn't hide his surprise. $1? That was far too little. $1? Little one, this bear is worth more. How about I give you 100? But Sophia immediately shook her head, her expression remaining serious. No, the price is $1. Her voice was firm, which only piqued Keanu's interest further. He took out a bill and handed it to her. Sophia quickly accepted the money and carefully placed it into a small collection box. She moved with such confidence that it didn't seem like a child's game. It felt like a real transaction. "Do you always sell like this?" Keanu asked gently. "Like what?" Sophia lifted her observant eyes to him. "Honestly, you don't try to make extra money, and you don't want people to give you more than you ask for." The girl shrugged. "It's my toy, and it costs $1. If I sell it for more, that would be wrong." Keanu smiled, but his thoughts began to take a different direction. This child wasn't just kind. She was honest and seemingly principled. But why? Why did she act this way? He sensed there was more to the story. "How old will your mom be?" he asked casually, glancing at the other toys. Sophia hesitated. For a brief moment, she averted her gaze as if searching for the right answer, then quietly replied, I don't remember." Keanu didn't show his surprise, but something inside him tensed. A child who wanted to buy her mother a birthday present, selling her toys to do so, yet not remembering her mother's age? He didn't want to pressure her, but his curiosity deepened. This was the first warning sign. It felt as though Sophia was hiding something, and Keanu sensed that this story was far from simple. He decided to keep the conversation going, to uncover the truth. The moment stretched on. Sophia, who had previously answered with confidence and without hesitation, suddenly lowered her eyes. She fidgeted with the edge of her sweater, as if trying to gather her thoughts. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and her shoulders trembled slightly. Keanu, an experienced observer of human emotions, immediately noticed the change. His calm gaze remained fixed on the girl. He knew something was wrong, but he didn't want to pressure her. She needed time. "Sophia, is everything okay?" he asked gently. The girl took a deep breath and sighed, as if preparing herself for something important. Then finally, she lifted her large, slightly clouded eyes to meet his. "I lied," she admitted quietly. "It's not for my mom." Keanu wasn't surprised. He had sensed that the reason was more serious. Now, he needed to find out the truth. "Then who is it for?" he asked, his tone still kind and patient. Sophia lowered her head, as if ashamed of her words, and whispered, "For my grandpa." Keanu leaned in slightly to hear her better. "He's sick," Sophia continued. "He needs treatment, and the hospital is really expensive. Mom is always working to earn money. She's always tired." Her voice broke, but she quickly swallowed her tears and forced herself to go on. "I just want to help. I don't know what else I can do." Keanu felt his heart tighten. A child who should be thinking about games and laughter was instead carrying the weight of adult burdens. Sophia wasn't complaining, wasn't asking for help. She was simply doing what little she could. "Sophia," he said softly. "You're very brave." The girl looked at him in surprise. "I just want my mom to stop crying," she whispered. Keanu realized that her motives ran even deeper. This wasn't just about helping her grandfather. She wanted to bring peace and happiness back to her mother, something she clearly hadn't seen in a long time. Her actions were pure love in its truest form. The evening city continued to pulse with life. People walked past, oblivious to the little girl with a big heart. But Keanu noticed, and he knew. He couldn't just walk away like everyone else. The next day, the sun rose over Los Angeles, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange. The city slowly came to life, the streets filling with the hum of cars as pedestrians hurried about their business. But in one small square, something special was happening that morning. Among the towering buildings, wooden tables adorned with colorful garlands appeared. People were setting up freshly baked goods, paintings, embroidered tablecloths, and handcrafted items. The air was rich with the scent of warm bread and vanilla, and in the center of it all stood a small table filled with children's toys. Sophia, still unsure of how she ended up here, found herself at the market. She had arrived with Keanu, who had invited her the day before. He hadn't explained why, just that she would enjoy it. And now, she stood watching as vendors prepared for the event. What she didn't know was that this fair had been arranged by Keanu Reeves himself, who had invited his wealthy and kind-hearted friends. They all knew Sophia's story and were more than happy to participate. Instead of a simple donation, Keanu had suggested a more creative approach to support the girl's entrepreneurial spirit and allow her to believe that this was entirely her own success. And in truth, it was. "Is this a real market?" she whispered in surprise. "Yes," Keanu smiled, placing a box of toys in front of her. "And today, you're one of the vendors." Sophia looked at him, then at her table, still bewildered. Compared to the expensive goods around her, her toys looked quite modest. But before she could ask anything, her first customer arrived. "Oh, what an adorable teddy bear," said a woman in an elegant suit, picking up one of Sophia's toys. "How much does it cost?" $1, Sophia answered automatically, just as she always had. The woman paused for a second, then pulled out a bill and placed it on the table. $100. "I really love it," she said, winking at Sophia. The girl opened her mouth to protest, but the woman had already walked away, leaving her in a state of shock. She barely had time to process it before another customer appeared. "I heard you have a lovely tea set. Let me take a look," said a man in a hat. Sophia handed him the small pink set she had once loved to play with. He turned it over in his hands, smiled, and said, "A beautiful piece. I'll take it. Here's $200. Sophia's eyes widened like an owl's. But it only costs $2. "I'm sure it's worth much more," the man replied, walking away before she could argue. And so it continued. Again and again, people approached her, chose toys, and left behind large sums of money. Sophia tried to protest, but everyone simply smiled and told her that her toys were special. She couldn't understand what was happening. Why did everyone suddenly want to buy her old toys? Why were they paying so much? She glanced at Keanu, who stood nearby, arms crossed, watching her with a warm smile. Finally, after an hour of unexpected excitement, Sophia looked into her money box and saw the amount before her was more than she could have ever imagined. It was enough. More than enough. She gripped the edge of the table tightly, feeling as if she were dreaming, as if this were some kind of magic. I did it." Her voice trembled, then she lifted her head and smiled brightly. Her eyes shone so brightly that even the sun seemed dim in comparison. Keanu stepped closer, leaning down to her level. "You did it," he said gently. Sophia couldn't hold back her tears of joy. They rolled down her cheeks, but this time, they were tears of happiness. She threw her arms around Keanu, and he felt her tiny hands trembling with emotion. Thank you," she whispered. pressing against him. "You earned this, Sophia," he replied. "You showed everyone what true love and selflessness mean." The market continued, with laughter, conversation, and joy filling the air. But for Sophia, this was already the best day of her life. She knew now her mother wouldn't cry anymore. Her grandfather would get the treatment he needed. And all of this was possible because one person had noticed her in an otherwise indifferent city. She wiped her tears and, still holding Keanu's hand, said, "I need to go. I have to give this to my mom. She needs to see this." Sophia led Keanu through familiar streets, clutching the box of money in her hands. Her heart pounded with excitement, and her face glowed with joy. She nearly skipped with anticipation, occasionally glancing at Keanu to make sure he was still beside her. He remained silent, but his smile never faded. He could see how much this moment meant to her. "You didn't have to come with me," she mumbled, slightly embarrassed. "It's no trouble," Keanu replied. "And I can't let you walk alone with such a large sum of money." The girl simply nodded. She understood that he was looking out for her. The way home felt longer than usual for Sophia. Street lights flickered on, casting long shadows on the pavement. Soft music drifted from an open window nearby, and a gentle breeze tousled her hair. She held onto the box of money tightly, almost as if she feared this was all just a dream. "What if Mom gets mad?" she suddenly whispered. Keanu looked at her in surprise. "Why would she be mad?" "I don't know," Sophia shrugged. "She doesn't like it when I do things without her permission. She says I'm still too little and shouldn't worry about everything. But I couldn't just sit and watch her suffer." Keanu felt his heart clench. This little girl was far wiser than her years. He knew her mother wouldn't be angry. She would be overwhelmed, and he was going to witness it. When they reached the small house on the outskirts of the city, Keanu immediately sensed the warmth of the place. It was old, but well kept. The glow of lamps shone through the windows, and the scent of home-cooked food filled the air, wrapping around them like a warm blanket. Sophia ran to the door, and without hesitation, pushed it open. "Mom, I'm home!" she called out as she stepped inside. Footsteps echoed from the kitchen, and soon, a young woman appeared in the doorway. She wore a simple t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a loose bun. She had the look of someone constantly tired, but the moment she saw her daughter, her face lit up with a smile. "Sophia, where have you been?" she asked gently, though there was a hint of worry in her voice. Then her gaze landed on the tall man standing behind her daughter. Her eyes widened, and she froze. Is this a joke?" she barely whispered, staring at Keanu Reeves standing in her hallway. Mom, this is my friend," Sophia exclaimed. "He helped me. And look." She set the box on the table and opened it. "I raised all the money. Now we can pay for Grandpa's treatment." The woman stared at the bills inside the box. Her breath hitched, and her eyes filled with tears. "Sophia, what? How?" she stammered, her hands trembling as she reached for the money. "I sold my toys," the girl said proudly. "And Keanu helped me. He set up a market, and all the people bought my toys for a lot of money. At first I didn't understand, but then I realized they all wanted to help." Tears were already streaming down the woman's face. She covered her mouth with her hand, trying to hold back a sob. Then, suddenly, she pulled Sophia into a tight embrace, as if she never wanted to let go. "Oh, my sweet girl. You did this for us?" she whispered through her tears. She held her daughter close, occasionally glancing at Keanu with deep gratitude. Sophia hugged her mother back, smiling. Keanu stood aside, watching the scene unfold. He was used to people thanking him, but this was different. This wasn't a moment of fame. This was a moment of pure, genuine happiness. He had done something good, not for cameras, not for a headline, just because it was the right thing to do. When the embrace finally loosened, the mother turned her gaze back to him. Her eyes were red from crying, but they shone with gratitude. I don't even know what to say," she whispered. "Thank you for what you did for my daughter, for us." "It wasn't me," Keanu replied softly. "It was all Sophia. She's special, and this is entirely her achievement." As he was about to leave, Sophia ran up to him and hugged him tightly. Her small arms wrapped around his waist, and he felt her warmth. "Thank you, Uncle Keanu," she whispered. He smiled, gently patting her head, and quietly replied, "You made this day special, little one." As he stepped out into the cool evening air, he inhaled deeply. The world around him looked the same as before, but inside, it didn't. Because tonight, he knew, the world had become just a little bit better. This story is not just about a chance encounter or a kind act. It is a reminder that even one person who chooses not to remain indifferent can change someone's life. Sophia was just a little girl, but her heart was filled with boundless love and care. She didn't wait for help. She didn't ask for it. She simply acted. Her mother, who had grown accustomed to the constant struggle for a better life for her family, suddenly realized that her daughter had grown up faster than she had thought. Sophia reminded her that care and self-sacrifice are not just the responsibility of adults, but a natural expression of kindness that knows no age. She no longer felt alone in her efforts, because she knew her daughter was by her side, ready to help. Her grandfather, who may have already begun to lose hope for recovery, received more than just a chance at treatment. He received proof that his family was a true team, where everyone was willing to fight for one another. And that was the real value of the moment. And Keanu? He was the one who didn't just walk past. His actions were neither loud nor performative. He didn't see himself as doing anything extraordinary, but that was precisely what made it so valuable. He gave Sophia the opportunity to feel the power of her own decision, to accomplish her goal with dignity. And perhaps that evening changed him too. In a world where people often overlook the struggles of others, this story serves as a reminder. Sometimes, all it takes is to stop, pay attention, and extend a helping hand. It doesn't always require great wealth or effort to change a life. Sometimes, all it takes is a kind heart and the willingness to do good. Because each of us has the power to make the world a little better. The smallest act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intention. And who knows, maybe next time, it will be you who becomes that one person to change everything for someone else. Be sure to share your impressions of the story in the comments and write what conclusions you have drawn after listening to it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I wish you all a good mood and see you in the new video tomorrow.